I wanted Mike to share a story today that is horrifying in terms of mortgage lending, something that he's dealing with over at Luminate. Mike, go ahead.
Oh, you want to go to negative. So here's a deal that happened,
This is a cautionary tale.
cautionary tale. I don't know what you can do differently necessarily about it, but had a deal come through, was a DSCR, $2 million purchase, 20% down, $1.6 million loan. Went through, credit was fine.
You didn't tell me it was a DSCR loan. That makes sense. Keep going.
You know, everything looked fine on the deal, funded the loan. Person never even made their first payment, not returning any phone calls. We're like, what's going on, man? Like, how does someone just walk from $400,000? Come to find out that this property was a flip, even though we had two appraisals on it. Property's probably worth $850,000. Looks like a fraud flipping deal. We're going to lose probably close to $1 million on the loan. So brutal.
And the like nothing about the loan stood out. Like my question is, there were two appraisals on this, right?
Yep. And what we're finding out from the attorney is it looks like the listing agent met both appraisers with a sack full of cash and bribed each of them 10 grand to hit value.
Where's this property? California?
What year am I in?
Palm Desert. What's that?
What year is this? What the fuck?
Right?
Yeah, this is insane.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wait, why would they do this? Why would they do this? Why would they dump a bunch of money into the house?
They didn't, Ryan.
They didn't. The guy bought it 9 months ago for $850,000.
Okay.
So, you know, they came out of it pretty solid.
Praise.
Seller and buyer are in
millions.
They split the money.
Yeah, I think it's a straw buyer. And basically, yeah. So, you know, they just gave the guy the money to throw a down payment, turn around, gave it, you know, no big deal, split the proceeds.
Well, it's a DSCR loan. So since it's a DSCR loan, there's no borrower qualifying, right? So the borrower could just be a ghost. I mean it could have been a completely made up profile.
Well, we did find that it is a real guy. It is a real person. It's not it was just a straw buyer. It is a real person that, as we're finding out, it looks like the cartel was involved as well in this deal. And like the straw buyer guy, he got some refund that is owed to the cartel. And there was some death threat via text that we saw, like in Spanish, like your kids are going to be beheaded if you don't give us our money. So, yeah, anyway, I just told the story to Dave and gave him nightmares. He thought, well, let's scare everyone else.
So since we don't underwrite those, if we did a DSCR loan, would this be on Deep Haven? Like, how are you on the hook? Because you guys you're a big bank and you did it, or?
Yep, because we took in the deal from a broker. Yep. So broker's off the hook and we're the ones that get nailed, unless, of course, the broker was involved. We don't have anything indicating that right now.
But we're not brokers with Deep Haven.
Non-delegated, so. Yeah. So we're non-delegated. So we would be, there's some level of protection here. I mean, they would be like all over us to see if we were involved, obviously, right? So it's just a frightening story because of the magnitude of the dollar amount. You know, their bank's going to lose $1 million. $1 million loss because they've got the house, right? The bank has the house, but they put up $1.6 million and they were going to sell the house for $800. So, you know, with legal fees and everything else, they're going to be out $1 million. And so, yeah, it's just a scary, Jacqueline asked a great question. What year is this? Because that's the kind of mortgage fraud stuff. I don't know if everybody ever watched The Sopranos, but I mean, the organized crime got into this with appraisers and with realtors, and they were like, "Yeah, let's go do this. Like, we'll just get a bunch of, and we'll just get cash out of these houses and then walk away." Crazy, crazy stories.
I look forward to listening to all the details on our CE course next year, because I'm sure it'll
Yeah,
be
right?
a case
I was
study.
gonna say, where there's one, there's many, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Hey,
On a
Marty.
positive thing, Dave, I'd like to share something positive, though, not on this particular
of
loan, but
course. No. I know. This is just
I-
be on your P's and Q's, guys. I mean, just like don't be. It's hard when you're like all excited. I got this $1.6 million loan. Don't ignore red flags. Red flags aren't pretty flags. Red flags are danger signs. Jacqueline's laughing for a reason. So red flags are a real thing, and so pay attention, and just be on the lookout. That's all. No, what I got some positive stuff I want to share, but go ahead. What do you want to share?
no, go ahead then if you've got positive stuff.
Yeah.
So
No, I want to talk
I
about.
just don't want to dwell on the negative.
Casey sent out that email about Rocket's deal. And this has been on my mind a little bit lately when you hear about all these mergers and you hear about all these acquisitions. And the more I think about it, the more I'm like, wow, our industry is really commoditizing clients. They're really commoditizing borrowers because everybody's like all obsessed with, we're going to have all these borrowers under we're Rocket Mortgage just picked up 9.5 million customers that they are now going to be able to market to because that's how big Mr. Cooper's servicing portfolio was. Do you like that email that he sent that he like? There's no relationship there. There's no relationship at all. So is it any wonder that the customers that get inundated with this, our advantage and I think that's what's really exciting about this. Our advantage is our relationships, we're local lenders and our relationships with our clients. And this, I would just, what I would be doing is I would be all over social media. I would be doing videos and reels on a regular basis, talking about this marketing that's happening to our customers and how it's freaking, when we always laugh about it whenever we see an interest rate that's advertised that we know is loaded with points, but the fine print on the points, if you look at Casey's email, read down to the bottom, that's a 2-point rate quote that they're giving them. The customer's going to save, I don't know what it was, $250 a month or $230 a month, but it was going to cost enough money that it was going to take 4 or 5 years just to get the money back before you really start saving money. And that's the opportunity for the messaging I think that you have as local loan officers that actually build relationships. I noticed that Ryan Grant's doing I'm not picking on Ryan, but he's doing some Facebook things about, hey, we get 30,000 leads a month here at better.com. And what an opportunity that is, like going 30,000 leads. So are we headset jockeys now? Or are we just going to are we going to start using power dialers and just start dialing phones? Like, I don't care who I'm talking to. I'm just, hey, you want a rate quote? Hey, you want a rate quote? Hey, you want a rate quote? Like that's not this business model. And that's never been this business model. If you want to work in a business model like that, I mean, there's, Rocket's made a fortune doing that, but it's a completely different business model. It's not relational. All of these servicers are going to be making a huge effort to keep these clients under retention. It's becoming a bigger and bigger thing. But it's no different than it's always been. Like, we've always run this risk. If they're going to be more aggressive, I think we have an easy way to overcome this. But you've got to stay in close contact and communicate with your customers on a regular basis about what's really going on. Your message to your customer, Ryan, your message to your customer has to be very upfront and very transparent about, hey, just so you know, here's what's happened. You've been commoditized. I don't think of you like that. I think of you as a customer that I have a relationship with, that my job is to help you achieve financial independence, plain and simple. And that's what I'm going to do. And I'm not going to ever offer you a rate that requires you to spend that much money. So it's going to take you 4 to 5 years to break even. There's a financial aspect to this. These mortgage companies are just trying to they're just trying to get another loan, get another loan, get another loan. That's not good for you. Right? It has to be strategic. Go ahead, Ryan.
No, I think this is really good. I think we're talking high level. I would love to hear everybody's thoughts on like what they're doing tactically to display that message. because it's easy for us to be like, just tell your clients that, but like, what does that really look like from a tactical standpoint, right? I think that would help all of us because we're all a little bit different here. So, I think, G, you probably do some stuff. Chris, you do some stuff. Like, what's everybody doing to voice that message in a in a way that is that actually works, right? And what is that message?
To your
For
client?
me, go ahead. You want to go?
You go, G.
For me, I was just saying, I have the list of everyone that eventually, should refinance at some point. So I was hoping I'd be a lot further along this list as far as getting some refinances done by now, but it's been building for years, right? So I'm doing like a quarterly message to them, video, bomb email. And then I'm still doing my paper newsletter every month. And so I bring, I do a market update, and I've been talking about these letters, these clients that have reached out to me with emails from the servicer that with, huge fees built in, but they don't disclose that, and some savings, and just how, every time the clients reached out to me, we work through the numbers, and it like never makes sense. It's not even close to making sense.
Yeah.
But I guess enough people are signing that they're thinking this is a good idea to do that kind of marketing to their
Well,
close.
one thing I love that you do is like story sell, right? Like, talking about the specific things that Dave and I were talking about. I think the story sells are like, super powerful. People are like, oh shoot, like that, like it really resonates, right? So I love that you do that.
I think it just, for me, it comes up in conversation during the purchase transaction the entire time, and just keep telling him like, I want to help you. I want to help your kids. I'm your advisor, so it's just, and then I always set it up like, let me know when you get your first payment letter. I'll help you set it all up, blah, blah, blah. I have like an email just saying, hey, Mr. Cooper is just a servicer. Do you ever have any questions about your mortgage? I know everything best. Just create the relationship. That's all it really is.
Yeah.
And just make sure that they know to call you. And I have clients always send me like, hey, I got this thing in the mail. Is this a scam or what is this?
Right.
They'll always reach out to me. And then like G said, I have a list. And I just, I've been basically calling or texting directly to my 100, whatever, it's 50 now. Everyone above 6%. So just staying in touch, saying, hey, rates still aren't there yet without point, unless you want to pay, 15 grand in points. So just hang in there. I know
despite what your servicer is trying to get you to do, right? You could add that to your message. Like, rates are not there, despite what they're showing you.
I think I added a new subscriber list to Kit, or you guys use MailChimp, but I added all 146 people in there, and I'll probably send a story like G did in recent loan estimate, or maybe use Casey's email as an example. So
wouldn't it be pretty easy to use a mortgage coach demonstration of how this really works? And when the lender's trying to get you to do this, let me show you how this really works and how long it takes to get that money back. I think mortgage coach could be a really good tool for this. I think that you should be, I think I would take a really aggressive approach with what these servicers are doing, and talk about what predatory lending is. I just Googled it. What's the definition of predatory lending? It's any lending practice that uses deceptive or unethical means to convince a borrower to accept a loan under unfair terms, or a loan they don't actually need. It often targets vulnerable individuals and can lead to financial hardship. And that's what's happening. I mean, think about, customers don't think this through. Our clients don't think this through. When I remember I did a loan for a guy, and he paid a bunch of points to get a lower rate when I was newer in the business. And then like a year and a half later, he's calling me because he wants to sell his house and he's going to buy a new house. I was like, well, dude, we did that loan. It was like a year later. I'm like, dude, we did that loan. We just spent all that money on that loan so that you could have this lower interest rate. He goes, yeah, but I already paid. Like, it's in the loan. It's in the loan. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to explain this to you because you already don't understand it, and it's just going to piss you off, and I don't want you to be pissed off at me. So I was like, okay, I just got to make sure that I have a really good conversation with somebody who's like, look, if you're going to pay these points, you need to know you're not leaving. You need to know you're staying in this loan. Because it isn't enough. Nobody wants to break even. You only refinance to make money. This isn't about breaking even in 4 years. And then I start really actually making $250 a month. I just think most clients don't understand that. Jacqueline was telling me a story about how just a client that she was working with yesterday, how just so there's so much financial illiteracy, even from really intelligent people. They just don't understand this. You've got to be the light. And this is a great opportunity to be that. I would talk about how Rocket Mortgage and the big mortgage companies in America, you might have heard about all these mergers and acquisitions. The big mortgage companies are commoditizing, in my opinion, they're commoditizing borrowers. And you're a number in their servicing portfolio. They don't know your name. They don't know who you are. And I don't work like that. I know who you are. I'm going to be the one who takes care of you. My goal is your financial independence. It's
Yeah,
not another
hey,
loan.
Dave, I have something to add on that just really quickly.
Go ahead.
So we have to understand, and I think this is something that it's become so second nature to us, right? We understand the financial fundamentals of everything that we're presenting. When I start talking the details of a loan and just firing off stuff, my wife goes like, I don't understand half of what you just said. Like that doesn't make sense.
Wow, that's really powerful. She's smart.
I think I genuinely think so. She's smarter than me.
Way smarter than you.
There's no question. But it brings back, like, in your presentations, in these conversations, when you're sending this stuff to borrowers and you're talking to them.
That's really good, dude.
We are used to this. They are not.
Mm-hmm.
And when we think that we are, and to put it, and I don't like saying this, but like when we think we're dumbing it down, they still don't understand. And it's not because they're not smart. It's because this is what we do. And so we need to figure out a way to communicate that to them in English so that they fully see it and understand it. I think that's the disconnect.
Yeah, I agree, Casey. I think that was
that's really powerful.
Like when you were saying, like, could the TCA be good, Dave? I think it could be good. I think as long as we keep the message really simple.
Yeah.
You know, because if you go too much into it, then they're like, you know, it's all about watchability, right? If we're sitting on a video and we've lost somebody, they're going to click off of it. Right. And that's why, like, when we're multifaceted with our approach and we're doing email and newsletter and calls and text and all these different things are going to land for different people. But as long as we keep them all very simplified, right? If we don't, then it's just going to be wasted anyways.
I'd like to tag on to something Casey just said there, though, because sometimes we also assume that we know what's best for the client. And here's what the servicers are capitalizing on right now. You know, consumer debt's at an all-time high. People are scared about the economy. They're scared about their personal finances. And for them, $250 a month, a lot of them, I don't care that it's 5 years to break even. I don't see a future where I'm going to be able to sell my house. I don't see that today. All I know is, yeah, I would like to get $250 a month less. That's why the servicers are capitalizing on this, right? So don't assume that it doesn't make sense for your customers. I think really your best practice is really education up front of like, hey, we closed your loan and you're going to get hammered with things. They're not from me, but here's where some people find that it makes sense. Here's where others don't. Don't assume that it's predatory lending. Don't assume it doesn't make sense because it might for them. They might be so desperate that they need it. I mean, that's what the services are capitalizing on. People need it.
Great point.
Yeah. And just to piggyback on that, I know I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here, but it's important for us to show all the different options, not just the one that you think is the best one. I mean, just this week, there was a CPA client who definitely gets numbers, right? And we agreed. She felt like rates are going to drop in the next couple of years. Showed her, no points, 1 point, 2 points. And we walked through all the math. And that was just like, for sure, she's going to do the no point option. She's like, yeah, that all makes sense. Yeah, I want the lowest rate. Okay. Just don't martyr yourself out of a deal because you're trying to show them only what you think and what you know is probably the likely outcome or the best scenario for them. Because I've done that in the past, early on, used to show like who would pay a point. Like that doesn't make any sense. But like, unless you explain it to them very clearly And I feel like I did with this person, but some people are still like, no, I don't care. I want the lowest rate. Like, I'm fine. I have the money to put down. Okay. They don't see that a guarantee that they're going to be able to refinance. And then the other thing that I've really started doing, I feel like I'm pretty gifted at explaining to a client complicated subjects and making it easy to understand. Uh, and when I do that on my Zooms, I feel like I start speaking a lot slower, especially on the TCA, break even periods, all that. And then I actually recently started turning it my speed of speech even slower, and like it seems like it's even resonating better. So like I feel like I'm talking in slow motion when I'm going through it, but it seems to be um, landing well for them. So
Mm. Yeah,
Great insights.
I
that's
love
great.
that.
Great point, G. And I know, like, talking about the point conversation, are you staying pretty neutral when you're talking about no points, 1 point, 2 point? Are you pointing out to them, like, if it was me, I would do the no points? Like, but like, because, because I feel like for the longest time, we're trying to tell people why this doesn't make financial sense. But it seems like, to your point, people are like, I don't give a shit. So are you just being like, here's the deal, choose what you want?
Yeah, I'm staying more neutral just because in 2002 when rates started getting up near 7 and everyone thought that next May they were going to be back at 5, right? I was all on that boat. And guess what happened, right? They haven't moved lower and it's been 3 years. So some of those people that could have paid a point and got like a 0.5% better rate because the yield curve was all funky, they would have been ahead, right?
Mm.
So I've stayed more positive. And I also say I don't want to get political, but there's a lot of things that are unknown right now. I said, like right now, depending on whatever news channel you watch, you could have a totally different idea of what's going on in the economy. So I don't want to get into that. But there's the Doge savings, right? If like the country can actually save money, that would be good. That would be disinflationary. That would bring rates lower. But, there's also all these people that maybe are getting laid off from the government. They're not showing up in all the unemployment numbers. If they have a 6-month severance package, maybe they will at the end of the year. Maybe the Fed will have to cut rates aggressively. Or maybe these tariffs stay on and that's very inflationary and that pushes rates higher. The truth is, none of us know how this is going to play out. So here's the option so that you can make the best decision for you and just leave it at that.
Yeah,
I have a follow-up on that. So great question, Ryan, on like how you're phrasing this or presenting it to them. Even more detail, how are you titling these in your TCA when you're showing like, hey, here's par, here's a point, here's 2 points? What are you putting in there? Because that's the detail that they're going to see when they refer back to it multiple times.
Are you asking me or
Yeah.
anyone? Yeah, I mean, for me, for a couple years now, I've been doing, if it's someone that this applies to, right? Sometimes if, chaff or whatever, nothing else makes sense. But, I would call it low cost, 0% or 0 points, advertised rate, 1 point, because I always just kind of point back to like the Freddie Mac index, things like that are usually advertised with a 1% fee. And then if yeah, um, if I show them 2 points, I'll call it the rocket quote with 2 points, because then usually I'm bringing up the rocket page on our Zoom presentation and showing them how it usually says 1.875 or 2 1/8 points built into that rate. And I know we've talked about that before, but I do that because hopefully for most people, I believe it gets them off of paying attention to online rates, especially when you can. I mean, I don't know. Again, I don't know why Rocket does this, but like their rates suck on their website. They're quoting 2 points and they have like a 7% rate. So then if you can show them with 2 points, we're at 6.5 today or whatever it is. And then they're like, okay, cool. I'm not going to worry. I'm not going to pay attention to Rocket anymore, right? Or online quotes. I know how it works now. And I feel like that, has dramatically cut down on rate shopping. Last year, I think I lost 5 clients to rate shopping.
Yeah, I would agree with
I
you.
don't think I lost any this year so far.
The one line that's really stuck with like my clients is I just say, hey, now that you're going through this process, your phone is listening to you. You're going to see rates everywhere. We all get our rates from the same place. So if you see them dramatically lower, it's because they have fees associated with it. And people are like, So I'll like you, I'll bring up the mortgage news daily, show them, hey, here are the rates today, right? These are no points. And then here's Rocket. And so like, I kind of couple that with what you do. And I feel like those two things have been massive and not going to have anybody shop.
Yeah, I mean, this is all awesome stuff. Just getting into more detail on what I feel like we always talk about this on a higher level, and it's just like small details in the way that you're presenting and interacting.
And I think that amongst with the assertiveness that you like voice it with, like those two things, people feel the confidence. And to me, like what's brought me confidence is just knowing where we sit in the market, like I know we're competitive now. So like we can provide, I'm confident that we've got really competitive rates now. So I think that's been helpful too.
On Zooms with first-time buyers, usually, I want to, I talk about here's the decisions you're going to get to make during this process, right? And kind of empowering them, right? Rates and costs, how do those go together? Different down payment amounts. So I usually I don't show them all 4 windows on the TCA at once. I'll usually start with rate and cost. So I have 2 windows visible, like low cost and advertised rate. We work through that math. And then maybe I get rid of one of those and then bring in maybe a different down payment option so they can start to see, okay, 10% versus 5% down, here's the real difference. And they can start to kind of slowly focus in without being overwhelmed with too much data. Because I'm sure we've all had that when you're on Zoom or even if it was face to face and you bring up the TCA and you're talking and all you see is they're just like looking at all the numbers, taking notes, and you're like, they're not even listening to what you're saying. So I want to try and limit how much they can see at once so that it's not overwhelming.
This is a really good discussion. Jacqueline, talk a little bit about, because I think what Casey pointed out, I don't know what the term of dumbing it down is the right term, but
I said it wasn't the right
term.
term.
Speaking to them in a way that they can understand it. Jacqueline, talk about that client that you had, was it yesterday, that you were trying to help with? Just tell that just as an example of, these are some really smart people that have no idea what's going on with their finances.
Yeah. So the Amir uses the term use crayons to explain it. So that's a good way to explain it instead of dumbing it down, but just making it more digestible with crayons, and then you can expand, because that's something I've been working on with Dean in our conversations and how he communicates to clients. Like if we're trying to over explain and answer questions that aren't being asked yet, we're going to overwhelm them. But just like start at the basics and then be like, okay, do we understand this level? Okay, now let's go to intermediate and then let's go to advanced. So that way you're just kind of explaining it to them in levels. Most people want to hang out at beginner. But the client yesterday, so they bought a house in 2023. The HOA has continued to go up. They qualified fine. DTI wasn't high or anything like that. She's a nurse, makes really good money. He was worked in a grow house, so not making that much money, but enough to take care of everything that they needed to. They got hit with an HOA assessment for $17,000. So they were panicking about that. The HOA has gone up $200 per month since they bought the house, and they're like, we need to refi, but they're at 5.6. So I was like, there's really no refi here. So let's talk through some of this other stuff. And she had reached out to me about one of those debt consolidation companies that they're like, oh yeah, let us take on this debt consolidation. And then we can take all of these bills and condense it down to this $200 per month payment, which is immediate red flags, because like, how are you letting stuff go into collections? Are we going into default? Because then that's going to tank your credit. And there's all these other issues. So she sent me some of the info and I was like, let's jump on a call and talk through this. And so we went through everything. She has some money that we can kind of work around, but I kind of walked through and I was like, okay. She's like, we can't, they keep having late charges on their mortgage because they're paying it after the 15th. So not 30-day lates, but I was like, okay, well, that's $100 you don't need to spend. And so then we're just kind of talking through that. And I was like, well, let's talk through it. And I go, what's the take home pay? Like, what are your paychecks every week? And so when we got down to it, their take home per month was like $8,500. And she goes, it is? I'm like, holy crap. Okay. And I go, okay. And that's take home. That's not even what they make. And she's like, we don't have any money. I'm like,
no, you can stop there.
Yeah.
These are smart people. They don't know how much their take home pay is. So that's who you're talking to.
Yeah.
That's who you're talking to. And I know that we don't think that's who we're talking to, because I wouldn't think that's who I'm talking to. I would think I'm talking to somebody who really gets it. And that's the opportunity, I think, that we maybe should recognize in light of, especially what Casey said, that's been the most enlightening thing about how his wife just like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And we think we're explaining it to people really simply. And she's around it all the time. And she's like, I still don't know what you're talking about. And so that's just a really important recognition, I think, from this call today. And Mike, you bring up a really good point. I get all puffy about like, this is bullshit. They're fucking trying to charge you 2 points. And it was like, fact of the matter is there are some clients that can benefit from a cash out refi and maybe spend a couple of points to get a lower rate and completely change their finances. Your job then, your goal is to be their financial conscience and go like, guys, I just want to help you. 3 years from now, I want us to be able to be in a position to do X, Y, and Z because we were able to create this extra cash flow for you on a monthly basis.
I'd say one more other thing I have for on the points conversation. What I'll usually tell clients is looking at like if they're the ones paying the points, just talking them through. It's like, what if instead of paying $5 grand or 10 grand in points, if you can handle this payment in the short term, let's reinvest that money somehow, throw it into a high yield savings account. So that way you're in control of that money, because the reality is the markets and the planet's just fucking weird right now with economics. It's like, I want you to have access to that cash versus saving an extra $100 per month in payment. If you had an extra 5, 10, 15,000 sitting in a savings account that you could go grab instead of throwing an emergency expense on a credit card, that's going to better serve them. And that's really that financial mortgage advisor mindset versus get me the best rate, get me the best payment. And like to G's point, there's still going to be people who just want the best rate, and that's fine. But I feel like there's just a lot of advisement that's not happening that I think we could really step into and really take advantage of doing your annual mortgage reviews. Cause like this is where those conversations can happen, and start them at the 3-month mark after they've closed and just start having conversations now. Who do you need? Do you need recommendations on financial advisors? How's it going? How's the payment? Like, what do you need? Be that person, be their go-to for absolutely everything. And you have a client that will never leave you or go to Rocket Mortgage for a shitty rate or service.
I do think that it would be a great opportunity to, this is a great opportunity to consider doing some sort of a consumer electronic newsletter on some kind of a consistent basis. This might be a really good time to look at this, because they're going to get marketed to already very consistently by these servicers. All of these servicers are going to be going after this. It's funny to watch all these mergers and acquisitions, especially with companies that don't make money. So Better just bought a company. Better still hasn't turned a profit, and they bought another company that's never turned a profit. It's really funny to me to watch this, but the idea, but Rocket is, I think, in a different class. I think Rocket operates at a different level. Those are the companies that you have to admire everything that they've done, because they're a really formidable competitor, but they're not competing with where you're competing, right? So you're local, you're relationship focused, and I think that your ability to get out some sort of a regular communication about what that's happening, and use, Ryan, we're talking about it, use stories to tell your clients what's happened. We were able to save a customer, even though they got into a higher rate. We were able to spend a little bit of money on points. We got a rate they could live with, and we saved this much a month on cash flow. And that's life-changing. It can be very life-changing, right? So it's just a random solicitation of, here, we could save you $250 a month. Wouldn't that be nice? Give me a call. Like, I hate that kind of marketing. But it works. So that's why they do it. Great call. Great conversation, you guys. I'll make sure we have the recording of this out to everybody. Are we done?
I feel like Hobber needs to speak up.
I'm good, man. It's all good stuff. I kind of take I do a little bit of Jacqueline too. Maybe I probably try to advise too much, but I just feel, I feel like I'm on Dave's team, where I just know there's other lenders that are just they don't care. They just send a quote and then hope they get picked and have a low rate. And it's just, to me, that's just very disingenuous. And like, before I started in this industry, I was a financial advisor, so I have like a little bit of more background of trying to help people. I mean, my goal is to help people, not close a loan. Right? So, but to Mike's point too, I mean, yeah, we don't really know what kind of situations people are in, so we can't assume like, oh, they want a 6% interest rate. Maybe they're okay with 6.5%, and they're okay with $200 a month. I don't know. So that's why it's also good to set that target rate, and just stay in touch with people. So.
Well, and checking in with them, because that credit card balance rate, what's the total now? 1.3 trillion, did you say, Mike?
I didn't, but it's big. Yeah.
It's
You know,
like
one of the things that really seems to resonate well, just sharing a quick best practice with everybody on that, is talking to them about their personal economy. You know, the global economy is doing all kinds of things. It's all over the map. And the same thing can happen to your personal economy. And that's the only thing that matters to you and to me. So
I love
let's
that
make sure
term.
that we stay in contact, so that if there's anything that changes in your personal economy, I'm your first call.
That's
I
awesome.
love that term. That's
That's
a
a
great term.
great phrase.
Right on. Great call. Right on.